Good evening and welcome to our show tonight. My name is Jim McGuire, your host, and tonight we have a very important show tonight. We're going to be talking about Catholic education in Putnam County. Basically, it's called CCD. That's the old terminology, but it's religious education. St. James Parish, St. James the Apostle, is the parish that brings education to the public school kids in this area. And we have two people from St. James are going to talk tonight about this wonderful program. I'll just mention who they are, and then I'll have them introduce themselves. We have the director of the program, Nicole
Cassio.
Very good, Nicole, thank you. And a veteran teacher, Tim Danielson. He's been doing this for years. He's really a wonderful guy. And but before they talk, introduce themselves, I just want to say a few things about this program, CCD. It goes back to 1562 in the city of Rome and Milan. The bishops there thought that these Catholic children who worked in the fields, they were farmers' children, and they worked in these big cities, that they needed some kind of instruction in Catholic doctrine. So they started this program, which was then spread like wildfire all over Italy and other countries. And then in 1908, the Archdiocese of New York decided to bring CCD to the three main boroughs. It was Brooklyn, the Bronx, and Manhattan, to help all these public school kids to get some idea of Catholic instruction because they really needed it in those days. And then in 1938, the Catholic bishops in the United States, they said that there should be CCD in every parish in the country. So it really took off, and we have it today now in Putnam and all over the United States. So I just want to say another thing, too. We really live in turbulent times for these young people today. They're really struggling with their own identity, and when you look at what's going on with the immorality in the world of television and the world of movies and that, how people are losing their jobs because of this activity they're doing. And what I'm trying to say is that the reason this is happening to them is they don't follow the Ten Commandments anymore, these people. They ignore it. So I teach children too, and I always tell them there are 2 million people in prison today in the United States. And most of them are there because they don't follow the Ten Commandments. That's what happened to them. So anyways, I wonder if you could just introduce yourself, say a little bit about your education and why you got attracted to this business of religious education. Nicole?
Oh, okay, we'll start with me. That's a very loaded question, by the way, Jim.
Yeah.
My name is Nicole Cassio. I actually am originally from Hopewell Junction, just down the road. I initially got my associate's degree from Dutchess Community College in Human Services, and then from there I went to SUNY New Paltz and got my anthropology degree. And currently, I am actually enrolled in Franciscan University's online program in the Masters in Catechetics and Evangelization. So this is where my focus on religious education and catechesis really kind of hones in with my education. Mm-hmm. And I've been teaching religious education straight out of high school. Wow. So I was 18 years old, and it was really a calling that I followed, especially after hanging out with people at another church that was not a Catholic church, and was wondering why I was finding Jesus, trying to look for him in other places when I didn't understand the church I was raised in. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of my initial wheel in. That was a response to an even earlier call that I knew I was actually going to be doing this when I was a teenager, but that's a whole nother topic for another day.
Right. Thank you, Nicole. How about you, Tim? Could you tell us about your early
again, my name is Tim Danielson. I was raised in the Midwest, product of 16 years of Catholic education, 2 years of seminary study with a missionary order, and then 2 regular years of high school. And I attended the University of Notre Dame, got a bachelor's in business. Moved to New York, lived here quite a while, then moved up to Putnam. And somewhere around 2000, I wanted to become more involved with my faith. Mm-hmm. And I want to be more participative in the propagating the faith. So St. James has a number of programs that you can participate and volunteer in, and one of them was to start teaching. So back around then, I started teaching CCD classes. So I've been doing that for about 15 years.
Oh, wow.
I've moved to I've been up in Poughkeepsie for a while and taught CCD up there. At St. Martin de Porres.
Oh, yeah.
And then also I was out in Long Island for a year and taught it out there as well. So I have a great love of teaching kids, and it's just one of the ministries that you can do at St. James.
Very good. I just want to ask the both of you, why do you think this is so important, religious education? Why do we need that today, Nicole?
Yeah. You said it very nicely in the beginning. A lot of it really has to do, and I can really identify with this, still being a young adult, that a lot of it has to do with how much God seems to be removed out of society where it wasn't. And I'm seeing, especially in the young adult community that I'm really involved in, more and more people are starting to find ways to fill that void, and then finally they're coming to realize a lot of it really has to do with the lack of God in their heart. As we say in the youth ministry, there's a God-sized hole that needs to be filled, and I think that's a really big issue nowadays, that a lot of people are trying to fill that hole with temporal things like, you know, whatever's on TV, on Netflix. I've been watching Hulu, so that too. An endless amounts of YouTube channels.
Well, look at the opioid.
Radio. Well, not even radio anymore.
Look at the opioid abuse. Opioid.
Drugs.
Why is that happening?
Absolutely.
Opioids. Holy God. Years ago, it used to be a beer or something like that. Now it's
Bad in this
opioids.
area too.
How about you, Tim? Why do you think we have this? Why is it so important?
Well, there's about a bazillion things that can hit these kids these days, all of us. And we're bombarded through the internet, through 50 bazillion TV channels. And so they need a focus. They need their parents to bring them, first of all, to this.
Amen.
And then once the parents have said, okay, I want my child to understand, then they need to know who is Jesus, because there's 50 million ways of saying who Jesus is. So I see CCD as a funnel of focus for them to understand who Jesus is, what their faith is, how do they practice it, and then how do they implement it in their lives as they move forward. And also, how do they deal with the onslaught of ridicule for being a Catholic that they will receive.
Very good point, yeah.
And so they need to be prepared for that and to know it will happen. It happens in we see what happens in the other countries, but it happens right in their grade school. If you say you're a Catholic or a Christian, you can stand to be criticized and ridiculed.
Very good. I just want to ask the both of you, or whoever wants to answer it, what is the mission statement of CCD? Is there a mission statement?
At least at St. James, I can tell you about that. The mission statement, I kind of modified it a little bit since I've come in. I've now been the DRE there for, it's only been about 4 months. It's still been less than 6 months. And really the focus, I loved that it was assisting parents in handing down the faith. That's the number one, because we know that the parent is the primary educator of the faith, and it should start in the family. And so I also expanded upon that by saying, and forming lifelong disciples of Christ, because that's really the end goal, right? We all want to be following Jesus for the rest of our lives. And so often, especially with confirmation in 8th grade, they think it's graduation and they're done. I mean, I did it. It's happened in my family. It's happened in family friends. And that's kind of my goal for our program, at least through my eyes. I hope that the other catechists agree with that too, and the parents. But I don't know if you want to talk more about.
That's good. No, that's good. Just Tim, maybe you could answer this one, Tim. Why is it so important? Why is it so important to help that population? Why is that so important? You know,
they've got a lot of choices,
yeah.
And this one needs to be presented to them. We get 1 hour a week with them.
Is that Monday to Friday? The classes that are available?
No, I think
Nicole
could speak.
Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, we have 1 hour a week with them to think about something other than the other things that are out there in their lives. Mm-hmm. And so it's up to us to kind of focus them, channel their I have them on a Saturday morning when they've just gone through 5 days of school, and they have to come in on a Saturday morning and spend one more hour with this strange old guy that's trying to tell them about what their faith should mean to them. So I think it's important that that's included in the things that are attacking them for their attention. So that's the beauty of what CCD does, and I think Nicole will speak to it in a little bit, but she already mentioned it. It's the parents. If the parents haven't brought them in the first place, they're the ones that say, my child's important, I want them to have Jesus in their life. No matter what they've done or how they've practiced their faith, they know they want their child to be included in that. And that makes it easier on us, because then, it's mom and dad saying, I should be here. So the idea is to bring it back to them that way, as you're talking to them, well, your parents are including you. And I see in our text that a lot of this is, and Nicole has introduced some text that make sure you bring this back to the parents. You don't just have some old geezer up there talking to them for an hour trying to explain things to them. And so.
Are there times during the year where the parents are invited to come and things happen with the parents and the children?
Yeah, actually, currently the program offers kind of like a come into the classroom day. It has its pros and its cons from my experience, but they are invited to at least be involved in the lesson, see what the kids are doing in the class, meet the teachers and the catechists, which is nice. But I'm hoping down the line to actually do more events as well for families, because we need family catechesis. We need to provide an opportunity, again, this is all opportune, provide an opportunity to bring the parent and the child in the room together, working on something that they not only learn more about the faith, but then they're told to bring it home to them and do something at home, practice it at home, and then bring it back out into the world. It's very much a giving and a receiving, kind of a relationship that we teach them.
So there could be classes for parents too, where they would come and maybe learn something about their faith, right?
Yeah, that would
away.
be handled probably in a different ministry, an adult faith formation,
Right.
which I wouldn't run, but I believe our parish does have it.
Yeah.
So, but I would also offer opportunities for both of them together at the same time.
Yeah. What do you think?
I was just going to say, we have RCIA classes that are
very
for
good. Right.
Catholics that want to, maybe usually adults or teenagers. There's a teenager RCIA as well, but mostly it's for adults and who may have fallen away from their faith. They want to come back into it. It's a 9-month program where they're re-educated into their faith, and then they will. Some of them have to be baptized or reconfirmed. It all depends on.
It's just straight up for people who want to convert to the faith.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And so there's that for the adults, and the parents could do this. But what Nicole was speaking to would be an excellent thing if you could somehow combine that.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure there are some members in the RCA classes that maybe have children that are in the CCD classes as well. So
That'd be great, yeah.
Sure.
Because it must be tough if kids go to CCD and they find their parents don't go to church on Sunday. That must be tough. What do they do, Yeah. How do they get there? They have to have a car. And if the parents don't go, wow.
Well, it's a question I've been asked in the past not to ask about are you going to Mass, because you don't want to humiliate the child that's family's not taking them to Mass.
Right.
But it's still a responsibility.
It's still a responsibility, so you
communicate
sort of
that
have
to them, because
yeah.
the Mass is the highest form of
It is.
of worship that we have. It's the moment that we're connected, not just as a community, but we are, but also to Jesus in that moment that we receive the Eucharist, So we have to explain how beautiful that is.
And also confession, look at that. I remember back in the 1950s, we go to confession, there was like 30 people online. Now if you go there, it's like 3 people. It's unbelievable. So I don't think the parents realize how important confession is. They seem to...
Should be a good plug for Reconciliation Monday next week.
Yeah.
What date is that, the 18th?
The 18th, I think.
Yeah, I think that. Yeah.
Well, I'm fortunate because I teach 2 classes, a 5th grade, a regular 5th grade, and then a remedial class that teaches them their penance and then their first Holy Eucharist. Mm-hmm. But they're typically they're behind. They're not. Usually this happens in like 2nd grade. I may have 3rd or 4th graders coming in that haven't done this yet. And sometimes, I'll be honest with you, they barely know who Jesus is, much less why they're going to go to confession, much less what are 7 sacraments. So you kind of have to bring them up to speed on that.
Yeah.
And then introduce them to that. Do we have any water here?
Water. Bishop. Here's a little bit of water right here. Yeah. You know, another thing too is I was thinking about maybe Nicole, you could answer this. Are you okay? I hope that's not too strong, that stuff. Okay. It's good. Nicole, could you tell us a little bit about the 1st to the 8th grade? A little summary of what might happen. You don't have to go into great details, just 1st grade is.
Yeah, I mean, basically the program is, as you said, grades 1 through 8. We focus on the elementary and junior high school age. Our 1st grade program is the home study program, where the parent gets the opportunity to really set the foundation with their child. That's the best way I've been explaining it to them this year, is being able to do the work together, so that when 2nd grade comes and they're really starting to prepare for the sacrament, or their first Holy Communion rather, the parent really, really needs to take responsibility of that, and definitely in 1st grade. And then 2nd through 7th and 8th even is all on site at St. James. They all come into the classroom and learn in the traditional format, at least up to 7th grade. Right now our 8th grade program, well, our 7th and 8th is level 1 and level 2 confirmation prep. Then the 8th grade program, right now they're doing about once a month. And they do that, they do community service, they do 10 hours in 7th, 10 hours in 8th. But in those in-between years, between communion and confirmation, they're really taking it to the next level each grade. So they are supposed to be continuing to learn a lot of the same things that they've learned, but now they're learning it at a different maturity level, at a different age. And of course it's reiterating, you know, Jesus' love for us, the importance of the sacraments, Jesus' mercy and forgiveness, the beauty in the teachings of the church. Those are all the really important points that are taught throughout. And of course, their prayers. They're continuing to say their basic prayers and to deeper understand them.
Sure. I was gonna say, what qualities do you look for in a CCD teacher? Tim, what would you say?
Well, I think first, a joy of your faith, that you truly have found Jesus in your life, and you want to promote him, particularly to whoever, but in our case, to children. I think you also need a sense of gratitude that somehow the Holy Spirit's brought you to this mission. A sense of humility in terms of these parents are trusting you with their children, even if it's an hour a day. So that's a humbling experience, and it's rewarding in that sometimes I feel like these are my children. And I'll never get, I rarely get to see them again, but I have them for like 9 months.
Yeah, wow.
And each one has a different personality. Each class has a different personality. And it's kind of a joy to have these young children. I don't know if I'd be very good with teenagers, but I love the age group that I work with, and it's really great. Also, finally, I'd say patience. You need patience when you're dealing not with just children, but patience when you're trying to explain something that's spiritual. It's hard enough to explain it to an adult, but to try and get into the Holy Trinity to a child is you're giving the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, and they go like, "What's that?" Yeah. So I'd say patience would be a wraparound for all that.
How about you? What do you think some of the main points for a good teacher?
Yeah, Tim, you really hit a lot of them, but I definitely want to stress that it is a calling, and that's very much the responsibility of the Holy Spirit, and in order to really do it, you really kind of need to be in tune with it. So for me, I at least going forward, looking for catechists, a lot of it is prayer life. You know, do they have, it doesn't have to be totally structured, but do they have somewhat of a consistent prayer life? Because I'm not perfect either. My prayer life probably needs some help. But are they, you know, receiving the sacraments? Are they, you know, are they being a good example of the church? You know, because they're being hopefully the best role model that they can be for these children when they might not have it at home.
Sure, very good. I was wondering, you know, with all the drug addiction going on in our society by young people starting at 14 up to 30, the opioid abuse, I don't know how many die each day now in our country. Do you see CCD in some way planting the good seed, you know, to say you got to stay away from these things and live a good life? What do you think, Tim?
Well, one of the things that comes up with the children is I try to when we get into the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, it's the Holy Spirit that's kind of hard to communicate. And I try to let them know that the Holy Spirit is always talking to us. We refer to it, especially in our youth, as our conscience a lot of times. But that they have to be in tune with hearing that whisper, okay? And so I'll use things like, you know, like you've got that choice to take that candy bar if no one's looking, even if mom says you're not supposed to have it, or not. And you've heard those voices, and they all inevitably say, yeah, it has happened. Well, the key is to listen to that voice. And if we can train them to understand that the Holy Spirit is there and talks to us throughout our life, then hopefully when they hit their teenage years and they've got a sense of how that works, maybe they'll listen to that correct voice more often and be more in tune with it.
Yeah, it's very important, I think, sure. What do you think, Nicole?
Yeah, I definitely hope, you know, we hope and pray that that's the case, that what we're doing does lead them into that, you know, those right directions. As we know, our children in this program, they have free will. So we know that they're going to make the choice they made. I know, you know, I'm not perfect. I'm sure we can all say that ourselves.
Sure.
We've, you know, made some things, choices we wish we hadn't. But ultimately, we do what we can, and I know my goal is really making that faith come alive for them so that they don't feel disconnected when they're done receiving their sacrament and think that that's it and then they're done. So it's really about connecting their faith into the everyday reality of their life, and not just we come in here, we do it, and then we leave.
Right. Tim, how is confirmation so important? What does that do, you think?
Well, I don't have 8th grade.
Okay.
But I do speak to it, particularly to the 5th graders, because part of that 5th year is going over the sacraments. So it's one that's ahead of them for a number of years. But I do try to instill in them that when they do get to that point, it is very important because it's a reconfirmation of your faith. It's in the Jewish faith, I think you have a bar mitzvah around that age, okay? In our faith, it's confirmation, and it's a reaffirmation of your baptismal vows. So when you tie the sacraments together, and it's also one of the initiation sacraments, so I have to talk to those 3 and let them know that when they hit that age, this is an important thing. Just like you wore nice clothes and a white outfit when you were receiving your first communion, you're going to have a very pomp and circumstance for your confirmation.
Right. How about you, Nicole? What do you think is so important about that?
Yeah, I mean, that age is tough, the adolescent, and it really does actually start in 5th grade, really, when they're starting to, if they have older siblings or they're making older friends, they're kind of seeing what's going on. They know, these kids, they know. But by the time they get to 6th, 7th, 8th grade is really when we need to focus on again, preparing them to make adult decisions, and that's really important, and adult decisions within the church, within our faith. So, like you said before, the 10 Commandments, that's our guideline for our examination of conscience, right?
Sure.
So, for them to approach confession and reevaluate the choices that they've made. So, confirmation and the Holy Spirit assist them with that. And having that sacrament, I think, is crucial.
You know, I saw some literature in the books about CCD about helping children form the conscience and the spiritual eye. Would you want to talk a little bit about that, Tim? Conscience and the Spirit?
Well, yeah, I kind of touched on it before. I think
Yeah.
the Holy Spirit speaks to all of us.
Right.
But there's a segment in the Old Testament where one of the prophets has a storm come at him, nothing. Has wind come at him, nothing. Has an earthquake happen, nothing. And then there's a whisper, and that's the Holy Spirit. But with all the noise that we have around, particularly in this day and age, that Holy Spirit is hard to discern. So the key is to work on that from an early age to make, if you make a child aware that the Holy Spirit does talk to you, that you try and get a sense of who the Holy Spirit is, and I always try to let them know that this is a topic, by the way, about the Trinity that when I'm 90, I still won't totally understand. Yeah. But we're not expected to understand. There's certain things we won't understand. I like to use the analogy of, if you can fathom the size of the universe, we can't. Right. But that's physical. It does exist. So our human capacity to understand things, especially in the spiritual realm, it's not quite there. But you should be aware of it, that it's there, and you will see the influence in your life once you're aware of it.
Sure. Now, I just want to ask you, we're going to be winding up. Is there hope for the CCD program? Nicole, do you see there's hope there?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like it's a part of my job. It's a part of my ministry and my calling to bring that hope to families and to continue to share in that mission of the church. I mean, catechesis is so important, and as you said in the beginning, how it needs to be established in all the parishes. So I truly believe that, God brought me to this parish for a reason, and I'm hoping that my experience and my youth and my energy will hopefully keep it rolling and moving and grooving in the direction that the Holy Spirit and that God need it to be.
Very good. I think it will. How about you, Tim? How do you
I experienced like 15 years. Most of my experience was under Dr. Bavino.
Oh, yes.
He did an amazing job. I mean, there's something like 1,500 students, I think, that we have in the CCD
program.
In the CCD program. So it's huge within the area. And he kept it going for a number of years, and then he passed it on, or the parish passed it on to this young lady. And he had the wisdom of this time. She brought this exuberance and this. She
I'm
makes
sorry,
it
we have
fun
to
again.
wind it up. But you're saying good things. That time is running out, though. Okay. But thanks so much for coming, to the show, and I thank you very much.
Thank you for
Jim.
having us.
Thanks for watching. Really appreciate it now. And,